that time, and that's what my PhD was essentially based on. And then eventually, now I moved on from there. I was so blessed at that time. It was when I was in Israel. Wow. It was really when I was in Israel, towards the end of my PhD, that one time in the night, the Lord visited with me in the night, and he called me 3 times by voice. And I remember that when he did that, I was so shocked that I woke up. And he left a message in my heart that I have called you.
Wow.
But you know, all that could not make sense.
Yeah, exactly. You come from a medical background.
Yeah, and then in Israel,
and then you receive this calling that says, I'm calling you for this. How?
And then in Israel, you rightfully said, in Israel, Sundays is a working day.
Exactly.
You see that? So even the concept of going to church to try to harness this whole thing was almost not there. There are churches, there's those people that on Sundays, you know, Saturday really.
Yeah, Saturday.
On Saturday,
yes,
on Shabbat,
yeah,
when,
Shabbat.
when these people go to the synagogue, they try to hold the church, you know. But I'd not hooked so much onto the churches. And, excuse me, and so the other thing also, the Lord made me know that if I said yes to the calling, all the dream of being a professor in the university was over.
That was your dream. Your dream as a child was
yes, my longing really.
My longing dream.
To one day come back to Kenya and lecture in the university.
That was always in your heart to come back to Kenya.
Yes, and lecture. Or wherever I go to, but at least lecture,
yes.
Be an academic. So this is something I was deliberately pursuing.
Wow.
You see that?
Wow.
And so the problem then became, the Lord made it very clear that if you agree to this calling, that dream is finished. You will not lecture. And so that confused me. So I did not understand. Then what is this all about? Because how will I even go back home and say, now is what, everything is over? I just want to preach the gospel. And so, and then, as I was finishing my PhD in Israel, then the attempt was to run away from the Lord. That's when I began out what I attempted to run away. Because he made me know that if you will go into this, forget everything else. Just come and serve me fully. So the first thing to do was to run away. To say, I don't want this thing, shut my ear, just move on with what I'm pursuing. Because it will not make sense.
How long you were in Israel?
In Israel, that's a total, the PhD was 5 years, but I'd spent 2 years in Beersheba. So that's a total of 7 years.
7 years.
7 years in Israel.
And in those 7 years, when the Lord called you? Year 6, year 7?
In fact, towards between the 6th and 7th year, towards the end of the PhD,
wow,
is when the Lord, is when the voice called. And, you know, with all that, nobody to give you counsel, to help you. And, you know, let me tell you, one thing I really learned in that is that church should set up structures to help people. When the Lord calls them, to help them harness.
Yes.
Not even that, to understand the calling. You see that?
Yes.
At least someone they can talk to and share. And then tell them, oh, if that is what has happened, then begin doing this and that, you know. And so, but when I was eventually leaving Israel, I was, the Lord, he was blessing me in his own way, in a very mighty way. I received an invitation. Before I finished, actually it was the last 1 year, which was very unusual though. I received an appointment actually to a place called CABM in New Jersey. That's the Center for Advanced Biotechnology and Medicine. It was part of the UMDNJ, the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey. And so that was one. And the other one was Center for Advanced for Pharmaceutical Biotechnology. So you see, somehow things were working well. And for me, I did not understand that. For me, it meant run away further.
Yes.
Now, pursue your things and don't worry about this now. Well, because it's working this way now.
Completely different change. I mean, you left Israel, go to the United States where it's a complete different lifestyle, complete different atmosphere. You thought that you were running from God. You thought that you were safe now.
Yes, because actually the calling became remote. Because, you know, when you finish your PhD and then you go into environment where you start work.
Yes.
You see, you go into postdoctoral fellowship, you go into lecturing and all this. And then you get engrossed. I become deeply absorbed now. And the work was exciting. I mean, I thought this was also good for the Lord.
Wow.
Because looking at cancer, you know,
Yes.
different drugs, especially trying to design the future drugs.
Wow.
You see, because I went into an area which is called signal transduction. Signal transduction is essentially drug metabolism, which means understanding when I take this medication, what are the biochemical pathways that are fired up in the body. And then in that way we are able to develop drug targets. You see that? So the team I was working with essentially, by the way, I decided to go to Chicago instead of going, first of all, to UMD&J in New Jersey, University of Medicine and Dentistry. I went to the Center for Advanced Biotechnology. Pharmaceutical biotechnology, sorry. At that place, we began to look at the future drugs. And essentially it was a process because I delved into signal transduction, which is part of drug metabolism, but hence I now specialized in oncoprotein networks.
Wow.
So which means I became so much interested in knowing the network of proteins that are important in oncology, and then how, let me just say what they are. Yeah. They are the mitogen activated protein kinases. We used to call them MAP kinases. And we found out that they were the novel drug targets for the future. Because they are the proteins that actually transduce, signal transduction, transmit the signals. You see that?
Wow.
When, for example, someone is on chemotherapy, so really my interest was in chemotherapy more than anything else.
Yeah.
So looking at different chemotherapeutic drugs that we're examining and the pathways they were firing up. So our main objective then, allow me just say this way,
Yes.
was to essentially exploit, there are basically two pathways. There's one pathway that is used for survival. We later we named it defense, you know, body defense. It's like when you walk out there and someone is smoking,
Yes.
or you are subjected to what we used to call environmental insults, or you at your workplace exposed to mercury, whatever it is. There is a pathway in your body that regroups very fast, becomes recruited, so to say, and begins to detox, to save the body. So that was a pathway that we were interested in also. And they have certain oncoproteins that define the elements for transduction, the proteins that transmit, you see that?
Yes.
To the nucleus, from the cell surface to the nucleus. And then we also had now what essentially became known as the P38 pathway, really, that's the name. The P38 pathway is essentially the cell death. We used to call it the death pathway. So this is the pathway that most of the time, when the pharmaceutical companies are designing their cancer chemotherapeutic drugs, they exploit this. Because this pathway, once it's fired up, once you develop a product that will activate it, then it leads to cell death. In fact, we used to call it apoptosis, and meaning self-suicide. You are telling the cell, the drug is telling the cell, kill yourself. Wow. So it was a very novel thing to do.
Wow.
So you see, when I dived into all this, and we were doing this, I thought that this was the most important thing to do. Because this is touching on real life. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. You're developing something that can save lives, something that can help humankind.
Absolutely.
And that was a great and novel thing to do also.
Absolutely. And a lot of investment, like you see in the US, from NIH, from the National Cancer Institute, the NCI also. And for me, this was very key. And then after that, I moved on from there, moved on to New Jersey. I eventually went to New Jersey. And so went to the College of Pharmacy of Rutgers, went into a group, the pharmacokinetics group. also dealing with cancer chemotherapeutic drugs, you know.